Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel. Today we're diving into some of the most mind-boggling questions that will make you rethink everything you thought you knew. We're talking about those mysteries that keep you up at night. The ones that make you question everything you thought was true. From ancient symbols to modern conspiracies, we're going deep down the rabbit hole. So buckle up, grab your thinking caps, and get ready for some serious mind expansion. Let's get started. All right, let's kick things off with a classic, the Eye of Providence, that pyramid with the all-seeing eye, chilling out on the back of the US dollar bill. What's the deal with that? Is it just some Masonic symbol, or is there something deeper going on? Some say it represents divine providence watching over America. Others claim it's a sign of secret societies pulling the strings. It's a symbol that's been debated for centuries, and honestly, it wouldn't be so intriguing if there wasn't something more to it. Think about it, man. Why put such a loaded symbol on your currency? It's like they're hiding something in plain sight, right? It's enough to make you wonder who's really in control, what their motives are, and what that eye is really looking at. Now let's head down to the bottom of the world, Antarctica. This frozen wasteland isn't just home to penguins and ice, it's also at the center of a mysterious international agreement. In 1959, 56 countries signed the Antarctic Treaty, essentially putting this entire continent on hold. No military activity, no mining, just scientific research. It sounds pretty straightforward, right? But why go through all that trouble? Some people believe it's a way to protect the environment, while others suspect there's something more valuable hidden beneath the ice. Could it be ancient ruins, alien artifacts, or something we can't even imagine? And why is it so important to keep this place off limits? It's like there's something they're not telling us, something big. It's enough to make you wonder if Antarctica is more than just a frozen wasteland. This next one's a real head-scratcher. You know how planes fly all over the world, connecting every corner of the globe? Well, there's one place they seem to avoid like the plague, Antarctica. Sure, there are some flights, but commercial airlines rarely, if ever, fly over the South Pole. The official explanation is that it's too dangerous with harsh weather conditions and a lack of emergency landing strips, but that doesn't explain everything. Why not just equip planes with the necessary gear? Why not establish more landing strips? It's not like technology hasn't advanced since we first discovered the place. It's almost like there's something they don't want us to see down there. Maybe it's something to do with the shape of the Earth, or maybe there's something hidden in those icy plains. Whatever it is, it's enough to make you question everything you thought you knew about aviation and the world we live in. Chapter 4. The Missing Moon Landing Tapes. Did we really go to the moon? All right, let's talk about one of the biggest events in human history, the moon landing. In 1969, Neil Armstrong took one small step for man and one giant leap for mankind. But here's the thing, NASA claims to have lost the original footage of that historic event. I mean, come on. How do you lose something as important as the moon landing tapes? It's like losing the Declaration of Independence or the Mona Lisa. Some people say it's just a case of bureaucratic incompetence, while others believe it's evidence of a massive cover-up. Did we really land on the moon, or was it all just an elaborate hoax? It's a question that's been debated for decades, and the missing tapes only add fuel to the fire. Chapter 5. The man behind the camera who filmed Neil Armstrong's first steps. So, let's say we did land on the moon. That iconic image of Neil Armstrong taking his first steps is etched in our collective memory. But have you ever stopped to think about who was holding the camera? It couldn't have been Buzz Aldrin, because he was right there with Armstrong. So, who was it? Well, the answer is a little more complicated than you might think. It turns out that the camera was actually mounted on the outside of the lunar module, and it was controlled remotely from Earth, but that just raises more questions. How did they manage to get such clear footage with the technology available at the time, and why does the footage look so staged? It's like they knew exactly what shots they wanted even before setting foot on the moon. Chapter 6. One giant leap, then silence. Why haven't we been back to the moon? We landed on the moon, planted a flag, played some golf, collected some rocks, and then crickets. Since 1972, no human has set foot on the lunar surface. You'd think, after such a monumental achievement, we'd be building moon bases and launching lunar expeditions left and right. So what gives? Why did we just Stop. Some argue it's all about money, that space exploration is just too expensive. Others believe there are more clandestine reasons, like the discovery of something unsettling on the moon. Was it aliens, secret government projects? Whatever the reason, this sudden halt in lunar exploration is pretty suspicious, don't you think? Chapter 7. Okay, this one's a classic evolutionary head-scratcher. If humans evolved from monkeys, why are there still monkeys swinging through the trees? It's a question that's often thrown around by people who don't quite grasp the nuances of evolution. First of all, we didn't evolve from monkeys. We share a common ancestor, but we're on different branches of the evolutionary tree. Think of it like this. You and your cousin share the same grandparents, but you didn't evolve from each other. Evolution isn't a straight line, it's more like a branching bush. Different species evolve and adapt to their environments in different ways. Just because one group evolves into something new doesn't mean the original group disappears. Chapter 8. Now let's talk about some seriously mind-blowing architecture. We're talking about ancient structures like the pyramids of Giza, Stonehenge, and Machu Picchu. These massive, complex structures were built with incredible precision and ingenuity, often using materials and techniques that baffle modern engineers. Here's the kicker. These structures were built by civilizations that, according to conventional history, were relatively primitive. They didn't have modern tools, cranes, or computers. So how did they do it? Some people suggest that ancient civilizations were far more advanced than we give them credit for, possessing knowledge and technologies that have been lost to time. It's like they had help from someone or something else. Chapter 9. Here's another thing that's always tripped me out. Ancient structures from different cultures, separated by vast distances and thousands of years, often share strikingly similar features. Pyramids, for example, are found not just in Egypt, but also in Mesoamerica, China, and even under the ocean. How is it possible that civilizations with no known contact could have independently developed such similar architectural styles? Was there some kind of global blueprint passed down from a common source? Some researchers believe these similarities are evidence of an ancient, advanced civilization that spread its knowledge and influence across the globe. Others suggest that humans, regardless of culture or time period, share a common architectural language, an innate understanding of form and function. Chapter 10. Ancient Aliens. Are those spaceships on the walls of Egyptian tombs? Let's talk about ancient Egypt for a minute, because those guys were on a whole other level. We're talking about hieroglyphs, pyramids, and mummies. Oh my. But here's the thing that really gets me. Some of the artwork in Egyptian tombs seems to depict spaceships. I'm talking about flying machines with wings, cockpits, and even what look like exhaust trails. Now, I know what you're thinking. Joe, you've been hitting the DMT again, but hear me out. Could these depictions be evidence that ancient Egyptians had contact with extraterrestrial beings? Or are we just seeing what we want to see, interpreting these images through a modern lens? It's enough to make you wonder if the truth is out there, hidden in plain sight on the walls of ancient tombs. Chapter 11. Giants Among Us. Were there really giant humans? All right, let's talk about giants. Throughout history, there have been countless stories and legends of giant humanoids roaming the earth. We're talking about beings of immense size and strength, often depicted as both awe-inspiring and terrifying. And it's not just mythology. There have been numerous reports of giant skeletons being unearthed all over the world. Now, most of these claims have been debunked or remain unsubstantiated, but some cases are harder to dismiss. Could these giant skeletons be evidence of a lost race of humans wiped out by some cataclysmic event? Or are they just hoaxes and misinterpretations fueled by our fascination with the unknown? Chapter 12. The pineal gland, a gateway to higher consciousness. Let's dive into the human brain for a minute, specifically the pineal gland. This tiny pine cone-shaped gland located deep within the brain has been a source of mystery and intrigue for centuries. Some cultures believe the pineal gland is the seat of the soul, the gateway to higher consciousness and spiritual enlightenment. What's even more interesting is that the pineal gland produces DMT, a powerful psychedelic compound that's known to induce altered states of consciousness. Is it possible that the pineal gland is more than just a gland, that it's actually a biological antenna allowing us to tap into other dimensions and connect with a higher power? Chapter 13. Dragons, myth or reality. Dragons, these mythical creatures have captured our imaginations for centuries. From fire-breathing behemoths to wise serpentine creatures, dragons appear in the mythology and folklore of cultures all over the world. But what if dragons weren't just myths? What if they were real creatures, perhaps even dinosaurs that survived extinction? There have been numerous reported sightings of dragon-like creatures throughout history, from the Thunderbird of Native American lore to the Loch Ness Monster. Could these sightings be glimpses of real-life dragons hidden away in remote corners of the world? Or are they just misidentifications and hoaxes fueled by our desire to believe in the fantastical? Chapter 14. The Dark Side of Music. Why so much demonic imagery? Let's talk about music for a minute. Music has the power to move us, inspire us, and connect us. But what about the darker side of music? I'm talking about the prevalence of demonic imagery and satanic themes in certain genres, particularly heavy metal and hip-hop. Why are these themes so prevalent? Is it just shock value, a way to rebel against societal norms, or is there something more sinister at play? Some people believe that these artists are tapping into something dark and powerful, intentionally or unintentionally, inviting negative energy into their music. It's enough to make you wonder if there's a hidden agenda behind some of the music we listen to. Chapter 15. Video games and violence. Are we desensitizing ourselves? Video games have become a ubiquitous form of entertainment, especially for younger generations. But there's a growing concern about the amount of violence in many popular video games. From first-person shooters to brutal fighting games, violence is often central to the gameplay experience. So, what's the impact of all this virtual violence? Are we desensitizing ourselves to real-world violence? Some studies suggest a link between violent video games and increased aggression, while others argue that the link is inconclusive. It's a complex issue with no easy answers, but it's something worth considering the next time you pick up a controller. Chapter 16, Predictive Programming. How do the Simpsons do it? Okay, this one's really weird. You know how sometimes movies and TV shows seem to predict the future? Well, The Simpsons have taken it to a whole other level. This animated sitcom has an uncanny knack for predicting real-world events, from political scandals to celebrity deaths, with eerie accuracy. Some people dismiss it as coincidence, while others believe it's evidence of something more, something called predictive programming. The theory is that these predictions are intentionally planted in our media to subconsciously prepare us for future events. Even if those events are negative or disturbing, it's enough to make you wonder who's writing the script for our lives. Forest fires are a devastating force of nature, capable of wiping out entire ecosystems. But there's one aspect of forest fires that's always puzzled me. Why do cars often melt into puddles of metal, while nearby trees remain relatively unscathed? You'd think that trees made of wood would be more flammable than cars made of metal. So what gives? Well, it turns out that it's all about heat distribution and ignition points. Cars are designed to absorb and retain heat, while trees are better at dissipating heat. Plus, the materials in a car, like plastics and fabrics, have lower ignition points than wood. It's a strange phenomenon, but it makes you realize how much we take for granted about the world around us. Have you ever noticed how news channels often report on the same stories using almost identical language and framing? It's like they're all reading from the same script. This phenomenon is known as media synchronization, and it's a growing concern for those who value independent journalism and critical thinking. Some argue that media synchronization is simply a result of news organizations relying on the same sources and wire services. Others believe it's evidence of a more coordinated effort to control the narrative and shape public opinion. It's enough to make you question everything you see and hear on the news. We live in an age of unprecedented technological advancement and medical innovation. We have access to more information, resources, and healthcare than ever before. So why are we sicker than ever? Rates of chronic diseases like cancer, heart disease, and diabetes are skyrocketing, and mental health issues are on the rise. It's a paradox of progress. The more advanced we become, the sicker we seem to get. Some argue that it's the price we pay for our modern lifestyles, processed foods, sedentary behavior, and constant stress. Others believe there are deeper systemic issues at play, like environmental toxins and a healthcare system that prioritizes profits over people. Thanks for joining us on this journey through some of the most perplexing questions out there. We've covered a lot of ground today, from ancient mysteries to modern conspiracies. Remember, the world is a strange and mysterious place, full of wonders and enigmas that we may never fully understand. Don't be afraid to ask questions, challenge assumptions, and think for yourself. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more thought-provoking content. See you next time.